He's done a lot of poking around. What we're going to do tonight is play around with the K-Node for a bit, do a few more demonstrations on it, and then you probably may want to review a few things from last week, like how to call CQ and whatever, and we'll kind of work from there. I'm hoping tonight to get into BBSs, maybe the DX packet clusters, and show you that kind of stuff. What we're intending to do is to run class tonight and run class next Tuesday night and then wrap it up. We were hoping to have the different software packages and TNCs here, but Joe's got to go run off to Paris for a few weeks to play, and he gets paid to do it, believe it or not, you know, and things like that. And then we're way into May, and we just decided we probably ought to just go ahead and quit now and just cover the basics. And I don't know, maybe we can have a makeup later on where we just have a thing where people get together and bring in their various packages, and then we'll demo them there, because May is pretty well shot for Joe and myself and that sort of thing. So we may just even put it off till fall or something. But at least we've covered the main part of the course, which was to kind of show you how to run all this stuff. Any questions from what we covered last week?
Yeah, I saw something this afternoon that I was wondering how they did it. And there was a guy that sent us like a CQ beacon through W0TX-7. And I'm wondering how he did that.
Well, if it was through -7, it was being retransmitted on the same port that he was on. If it was -3, then he was on the other port.
Yeah, it was -7.
Okay,
His call, and then an arrow W0TX-7, and then on the bottom CQ, whatever, a couple words.
Okay, what he did there, tell you what I'd like to do first, because I want to cover both CQs. I've had several questions on it, so I want to recover how to do it through a K-Node, DNet type of node, and then how to do it through this. Conditions haven't been real good today. 10 was totally dead, 15 was kind of so-so. So what I thought we would do real quick is set up a link on 20 meters here to show you how you do it before the bands definitely die if they haven't already, since the strange things are going on the sun. What we've done is we got our command line up at the top of the screen, which you can't see, and then Joe did a NL. You remember that? That's node list long. And it shows that we heard, since we're on 2 meters, we heard this station on the other port because it's got an X, so he's on 20. We heard this one, and he was beaconing through this digi. However, there's no asterisks, so that means we heard him direct. If we had not heard him direct, it would be similar. We don't have a good example on this one, but it'd be similar to these. Okay. Normally, what you'll see is you have an asterisk here and one here, which says that we heard this guy repeat the frame. We didn't hear this guy do it direct. Okay, now, I talked to this guy this afternoon, and he runs a node here, W8AYJE-7, in near Milwaukee, and he said he was going to be in his shack tonight, so let's just see if he's there. Joe, why don't you do an X space and then call sign without the 7. WA8YJE space S, because we want to stay.
What's he got the /X for there?
Because he's on HF.
Oh, okay.
We're on VHF, and the X means...
Okay.
So we've told TX to go ahead and call this station, and if we hook up to them and later on the station goes away, don't disconnect us from TX. That's what the stay command is.
The X means you're telling him to use the 20-meter port?
Yeah, we're saying cross connect. See, we have the X up there, which means he's on the opposite port. If you were on 20 meters and you did this same thing, you would see an X after FNL and X after WG0N, because they're on 2 meters. So the X means they're on the opposite port that you're on, and you have to do an X to get over there. Now, we heard this node beacon at 6 o'clock, so there, we made it. Okay, type hi, and his name is SIMM Y, I think. It was kind of a strange name. A period space K. The convention is to put a K or some right arrows or something to tell the other guy you're done.
Why'd you do the period? Why'd you do the period?
In a sense.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to put a period there, but I always put a period at the end of my sentences just out of habit. See, now what happened right now, he's got his keyboard set up, so if he's not there, it automatically puts you into his mailbox. We just wound up in his mailbox, telling us he's got 2218 bytes available. Now, he may come on here and say hi. Okay? So, a lot of your stations are set up that way if you have the right type of TNC where somebody connects to the mailbox, it sets off your connect alarm, you walk over and say, hi, how are you, and whatever. And if you're not there, you issue a command which tells your TNC, if somebody connects to your keyboard, ship them over to the mailbox. See, he's in West Michigan.
Thought you said he was in Milwaukee.
The 2-meter node is. If you go through him, you're in Milwaukee. So I went to Milwaukee and called CQ, and he answered me. Well,
Bill, when you connected, I missed why you have to ask after the call. X.
oh, okay. I'm telling W0TX that when I lose my link on 20 meters, see, what I'll do here is I'll leave a message when I'm done. I'll say bye, which will tell his station to hang up. Let's just leave him a real quick message. So you say S space WA8YJE. That's all in the same general area, Joe.
Just across the lake.
I mean, I wouldn't want to be anywhere up there, so it's all in the same category as far as I'm concerned. I mean, Joe's up there last week while it's 80 degrees, and he's up there mobile telling us that it's 23 degrees or something, and snow up to here, and
18 degrees.
18 degrees. Okay, now we can go ahead and type ahead. We don't have to wait for response, so type hi. This is going to be the subject.
Howdy. Oh, this
Howdy, that's fine. This is the subject, so anything you want to type. Return. Well, I don't know if that's all going to show in his subject. I don't know how many characters you're allowed. Why don't you just say hi and then return? See, we're typing ahead. We're not waiting for our prompts. Because we can type ahead, leave it, and disconnect, and it'll get everything through for us. Just howdy from Packet class. Sorry we missed you. Because I was telling him on Packet, you know, that what we're doing. He said, well, I'd like to talk to you guys if I'm here. But he said, my station will be on. It always is. I just put, sorry we missed you. And then just 73s or something. See, now here's what happened. We got the subject, and that's where the hi goes. And then it says enter message, enter with control Z, etc. The rest of the stuff will go here. See, so you don't have to sit there and wait for these prompts. You can log to most TNCs, just type all this stuff because you know how the format is and hang up, and TX will go ahead and get it through for you, and you can go off and do something else.
There are some of those, aren't there, Bill, that will not do that. You put that ahead of your prompt line.
I haven't come across one yet, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. I always do this. I never wait around. That's just like TX, the node. You can connect to TX and say, connect to this guy and do this and go away. You don't have to wait for all the prompts and everything. There may be some TNCs or some computers that emulate TNCs that this may not work. I haven't come across one yet, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. And
How many
then,
characters do you normally have per subject?
oh, that's why I don't know. That's why I told Joe when he started filling that out, I just either put hi or the date and time or something and let it go at that. Because it's something like about 20 characters.
What happened if you put 21?
I never tried it.
I was just curious what it...
I've never tried it because I don't know. Yeah, try it when you get on the air, you know, see what happens.
You'd probably jam the network or something.
Did you do a control Z? Okay. And then we can go ahead and just do a B for bye. Now, what we've told his station is after you get done saving the message, go ahead and disconnect back, and you'll see a message up here where TX will tell us the other end disconnected, but he won't disconnect us. Unfortunately, we're having a problem here, and it's really strange. We have good signals and we can't decode them. It's not the antenna, because we've tried 2 antennas last week.
Timing off a little bit.
I have no idea what it is. I've never seen that happen before. It's really strange. Did you? Well, I know Chuck had one last night where TX could hear him, but he couldn't hear TX on 2 meters. And I sit there and I watch TX keep sending, keep sending, keep sending. Chuck would type something, it'd go right through and come on my screen. But anything I typed hung right up there at TX, he couldn't get it through. Which we attributed to phase distortion, because they're both up against the hills and TX runs more power. So, you know, you get that sort of thing. Phase distortion is extremely critical.
Is that sort of like TV?
The shadows and everything, yeah.
We can't get through TX now. And B hasn't gone out yet.
Now he's having trouble hearing us?
I think we got a bad citizen on the air.
Bad what?
Bad citizen on the air. Every time TX comes up and transmits, this guy jumps on top of his carrier. Yeah, there's somebody, every time TX transmits, this guy is right on top of him.
He thinks he's going to beat you, huh?
Question.
He's busy now.
Once you type that letter B, if you decided then that you wanted not to have done it, there's no way, I mean, if he hasn't acknowledged it back,
No, once you put it in your TNC,
it's gone.
you can't recall it. Yeah. I've done that more than once.
B
You know.
finally got there.
You turn off your
Okay.
TNC if you're fast enough.
Okay, the Control Z just got there. Message saved. And now the B should be getting there shortly, and there we go. Now, disconnected by WA8YJE at node TX. Here's our command line from TX. We're still connected to TX. If we did not have the S, wherever we connected up there at the top of the screen, we would have gone back to the disconnected mode. TX would have disconnected us.
And that other guy's trying to get in and beat you, huh? He said there was another guy trying to...
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Now, can you go to the node list and find out who that station was?
You might do it with the JL, but you don't know which one it was. The one that's on top there?
Yeah, one is.
It might show up in the JL list, but you wouldn't know, of all the people up there, you wouldn't know which one it was. Now, out of curiosity, why don't you go ahead and connect to the node, WA8YJE-7, so X space. Now, I saw some hands earlier back here. We had some questions before that message save popped up.
I was curious if you were going through, like, let's say 2 nodes, and you did a buy, and you waited there forever. If you went back to the command mode and disconnected, does that leave things hanging?
No, that'll disconnect from your direction. In other words, when we were connected to that station, we could issue the disconnect and dump the whole link if we wanted to.
That's okay to do that. That's not rude.
Yeah, you can do it either way. The question is, proper ways of disconnecting. If I didn't care, I was done, we could have just did a Control C to go to command mode and then do a D, and we would have dumped everything going back the other way. So you can issue a disconnect from either end. The only time it's critical, in case I forget, I hope tonight to get to the LJF for those of you that aren't used to BBSs. When you log into LJF, you can ask it, what messages have come in since the last time I asked it this. If you do a Control C and a D and disconnect from LJF and then you log in later on, he's going to list all those messages he's already listed to you. If you say bye, do a B and let him disconnect, then he remembers what he's already told you has come in. So the next time you log in, it's all new stuff. It took me a while to figure out what was going on, and I asked Ed, and he said, well, I shouldn't do that. We finally figured out.
One more time.
Okay, if I connect to LJF and I do a list for him to show me all the messages that come in, and he'll show them to me. And then if I do a buy, just a B, and let LJF disconnect me, and then say an hour later I log back in and I do a list, it will only list what new messages have come in since the last time I listed. But if I log into LJF and I do a listing, and then I do a Control C and a D, and I disconnect him, and then I turn around an hour later and log in, he's going to list all those messages all over again, plus whatever's new. So you always want to tell LJF or that type of BBS to disconnect you, and that way he remembers. It's just a quirk in the software.
What type of BBS is that?
Anybody know?
LGF?
Is it MSys? Yeah, it's MSys.
Bill, if you do that, then you wanna check in later, cause there's something here you wanna reread.
Then you have to do a read R space and then the listing number.
Okay.
Or there's ways, we're going to cover this later on, but there's ways to go back and relist what you've already listed. Okay? We'll cover all that. Okay, now we are connected to this node. We're on channel B, so we know somebody else has got channel A. We can get to 10 meters here. Now, we could do an NL and list all the nodes, or we can do a JL and list all the people it's hearing, and anything that has an X is now on 145.01 in Michigan. Now there's a node, what would be abbreviation for Milwaukee? MIW,
LW?
ML, shoot. I had this written down, I forgot to bring it.
MILW.
MILWK. Try that. Do an X space MILWK space S, because we don't want to lose this link. If it's not valid, he'll come back.
ILWK?
Yeah, space S. I think it's MIWLK. If it comes back and says invalid call sign, that's the polite way of saying replace nerd at keyboard. Then we'll retype it.
You know what I think? It says, don't you dummy, do it over. That's what I think it tells me.
But anyway, we have connected to this node out there, and he's got an X on, so that means that we can go to some other port. And he's telling us that we can go to 145.01. If we want to go to 10 meters, which happens to be 28.103, we could cross-connect to that node and then have it cross-connect to 28.103. This is what I have to do when I want to talk to a node in California. See, 10 meters is too close here for California. So I can't use our 10-meter gateway here, which is COLO or KD0EW, or we got one now called Arvada. If I want to go to California, I can't really use those because they can't reach California. It's too close. So I have to go east somewhere, catch a node, and then hop back. Retry it out. Try MIWLK.
Save Bill.
That doesn't look right, does it?
Yeah.
Well, put a space in there and let's see what happens. Space S.
Some of these now you can have more than one other port you can connect to, or is that not?
Oh yeah,
Okay, now if you say X, how does it know which port?
because this is a CAM. CAMs can only have up to 2 ports, but there's like MSYSs, which we hope to get going for TX one of these days. You can have about as many ports as you want. And when you do a listing, you'll say on port 1, frequency so-and-so, here's all I've heard. On port 2, here's who I've heard. Port 3, here's who I've heard.
So then you have.
And then you say C1 space for port 1, connect 1, this call sign. So if it's got more than 2 ports, you've got to actually define the port on most systems.
MSys is neater than hell.
MSys,
There's more stuff to MSys.
there we go. Okay, now do an I, and I think this is going to be one of those dumb ones that doesn't tell you much. It's the older version, I think. We are now on 145.01 in somewhere around Milwaukee.
Whitehall, Michigan.
Well, that's where the node is. But we've taken 2 meters to somewhere else now. There. See, this is one of the dumb ones.
That can't be Milwaukee. That's not Milwaukee. You don't abbreviate Milwaukee that way. It's Michigan
Those people are strange up there.
Wild Lake or something.
See, this is an earlier version of NetROM where you couldn't put anything that was meaningful in it.
Milwaukee is 9 anyway.
Do a U. Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
Where do we get a list of all that, Bill, in case you want to look them up sometime?
Is,
Like you get that and then get a list, say, oh, I know what that is now.
Michigan's
Well,
8, right? Michigan is 8?
I don't know.
Yes.
Is that 8?
Yeah, Milwaukee is 9. So these would all be 9 calls.
I was gonna say Chicago.
See, there are lists out, you know, you can get lists from, you know, like if you go to LJF, there's about 10 or different,
Where's LJF?
it's here in town. It's a BBS that has all the maps on it. You can get a lot of those off. We're going to cover that later on. Hopefully you'll come back with something here shortly.
What does you mean?
Users.
Yeah, we're in a NetROM now.
We're on a NetROM node. Remember, for those of you here that weren't here last week, if you, and you got an example in the handout, if you do a U, it's going to show you who's connected to the node, and that's an uplink. You'll see who is connected to the node via downlink. In other words, somebody came in and said connect to so-and-so, and then a circuit is where a guy comes in from somewhere else. So here in Denver, if somebody in Colorado Springs connects to COS in Colorado Springs and then says connect to Denver, DEN, he comes into DEN and then he connects to W6OAV, you would see a circuit to COS in the call sign and then a downlink to W6OAV. So you got uplinks, downlinks, and you got circuits that come in and can go out if they want. There's an example in your handout of about all the different things you see. If you want to turn to page over there. Has everybody got that page?
Don't know.
It's towards the back.
What you got before and after, maybe?
It's just where we start getting into different nodes and stuff.
These aren't numbered because these are copies of the slides I would have been using if we didn't have this real-time display here. So you guys are lucky. They had to look at slides last class, so you get to see the real stuff. But it's the one,
Guessing here is,
it's the sheet that shows a bunch, it shows at the top DEN, NetROM 1.3, and underneath you got a bunch of stuff that says like uplink, downlink.
it's right by where you stopped last time, because I always put this thing in here.
Okay.
If that helps you.
Yeah, it's the page after where we stopped last week.
I don't know what page that is.
Is that you a valid commander, being it didn't show up on the command line? And a prompt up there?
Well, see, this prompt was from the gateway. And then when we connected to NetROM, it just said link made. Remember, NetROM and DNet doesn't give you a command line because it assumes you know what you're doing, so why waste radio time? If we did a question mark or non-valid, then we'd get the command line saying, hey, dummy, here's the only things I know. Has everybody found that page?
What are you looking for, DEM?
Here,
K20J-?
if that helps you, it's in the middle of the page about like that.
The you?
You'll see the command U.
Oh,
The-
he said DEN.
The top line says DEN KQ0J-2 NetROM. And then underneath that is a little U, and then a bunch of stuff says uplink, downlink, and whatever.
That far back.
You might do a question mark. Maybe that doesn't recognize users for some reason.
It's just a few pages after.
Or maybe the band died, I don't know.
Pages
Won't
after
that
the
come
little
back?
amount. Yeah.
If you give it anything it doesn't recognize.
One of the versions of NetROM doesn't. FNL used to be that way. If you put an invalid command, it just sat there. It took me a long time to figure out what was going on. And then they fixed it in the following ones. I think it was like version 1.2.
Hey, Bill, in my book, it's 3 pages after the last one with the pictures of mountains on it.
Okay, 3 pages after the mountains.
Right.
But I always put that book in where you stop.
Okay, everybody got that one? Okay, if you look at that, it says uplink KE0QA. So that means that Joe typed C-space DEN, and he connected to DEN. And then after he got the link made, he typed C-space W6OAV. So notice it's his call -15 downlink to me, W6OAV. Anytime you connect to a NetROM or the net, it puts the -15 behind your call if you don't have anything behind your call. If you have something behind your call, like say it was KE0QA-15, then it would subtract 1 and make it a 14. There we go. Okay, we lost the 20-meter link.
We came all the way up for some reason.
Well, when you-
I know
when
why.
you-
Left the S off.
Initially
Yes,
typed it up there on the top, you left the
Ah.
S off.
See, this is when you get frustrated. We lost the S.
But the S won't do us any good on
Yeah.
NetROM.
No, NetROM and DNet doesn't recognize the S. Why don't you connect to Can you connect to WG0N-7?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you do that and do an NL on that. Okay, the next one, you have an uplink, which is where W6OAV connected to DEN, and then I issued the command to connect to KC0CZ at SPRS, which used to be a node down there near Lamar. So it was an uplink to DEN, and then it was a circuit to that node, SPRS, and then to KC0CZ.
Okay, there it is, Ben.
Okay. Why don't you X
Where are
to...
you now?
That's fine. Why don't you X to Oregon? See if we can make it. X to OR. Then we have a circuit where WD6E came in from Albuquerque to DEN and then went out to K0ENC at A&G, which is up there in Nebraska. And then we have where K4FMA at Grand, which is near Raton Pass, came in, and then once he got to Denver, he set up a downlink to W0TPM. And then we have, believe this or not, we have K0PGM calling CQ.
And nobody answers.
That's how a CQ appears. So you could immediately connect to him. Remember when we went to whatever that place was there, MIWLK, which I thought was Milwaukee. If we just saw somebody calling CQ, you know, we could have connected to him. So that's how a CQ shows up. Then we have K7EZW coming in from Salt Lake, and he hasn't done anything. So he's come into DEN, and he's sitting there. He hasn't told DEN to do anything yet. And then we have an uplink, W6OAV, because I had to connect to the node to do a U, so that's how I got there. Those are the different things you'll see on DNets and NetROMs. Now, if you want to talk to somebody, you see a circuit, you can start connecting in that direction and find the guy and connect to him. Anybody that's on an uplink or a downlink you can connect to as long as their users will allow you. If they have users set to 1, well then it's going to say busy. You connect to a circuit, you have to go to an uplink or a downlink. Now just like last night, I went out to California and then I took 3 nodes up to Placerville up there in the gold country in the Sierras, and I saw a guy in an uplink and I connected to him, said, "Hi, Bill in Denver," and all I got was, "Wow, how are you doing this?" You know, that's what's fun. You know, just like we had gotten to MIWLK, we could have done a routes like we did last week and gone to maybe another node. Get away from a gateway, because the people right around the gateway sometimes understand it. Get a couple nodes away out where they've never seen one. It blows their minds. And that's the fun. I like to do that. And I've got all kinds of QSL cards, copies of, the guys have sent me the entire QSO on a printout saying, here's a copy of it that I have hanging on the wall because people don't believe this. And I show it to them, see.
Bill, were you using W0LJF for that, or were you going on?
No, this is live. Remember how we went to MI? At that point, we'd have done user. If we just saw like an uplink or downlink, you'd have connected to him. Just say C space where the call sign is. You'd have got to connect, and then you say, "Hi. You know, this is Joe in Denver," or whatever, and it usually blows their minds.
Bill, I don't understand now. It says 300 baud there. Do we have to have 300 baud, or can you have 1200 baud?
We're running 1200 baud, but we're on VHF. The node is converting to 300 baud. Remember the node, you don't have to worry about your pack length. or your speed or anything, if you're on VHF and you got pack length of 128 and you're 1200 baud, when you go out on HF, it's going to be at 300 baud and whatever pack length the sysop set up. Okay? Now if you go through the gateway, remember the crossband digi, where if I said connect to so-and-so via W0TX-3, where I'm making it operate as a crossband gateway, now I'm bypassing the sysop parameters. If I'm running 128 characters, I'll probably never get anywhere because it just goes right through the gateway. Remember, digis repeat. They don't care whether the other one gets it or not. In this case, we connected to TX. We told TX to connect to the WA8. We got our stuff to TX. We're done. TX now gets it through to the W8. They work at it. If I go through the gateway, then that means that when I send it out, TX just digies out, just sends it. He doesn't care. The other end has to acknowledge back to me. And the more of these digis you tandem, as we talked about several weeks ago, the less your throughput. Now, here we are here. Where are we? We're in Oregon. This is a VNet. There we go. Uplink. Joe did an I. We're in Hubbard, Oregon. At this elevation, etc. We're on 18105, 300 baud. Here's the nodes that are on 18105. He's just kind of telling us. So anyway,
You know why he does that? We do a nodes list, they won't show.
should.
On a DNet. Kano.
Oh yeah, we're on VNet now. He's changed that. Do an H. This will tell you who he's hearing.
Is there kind of a standard that if you're a node, you use -7?
A quasi-standard. The quasi-standard, because it's not a rule, but most people follow it, is your board, your keyboard is your call. Your BBS, your personal BBS is -1. Your crossband gateway is -3, and your node is -7. Okay? And some frequencies, they really push that. Where we were earlier there with that WA8, they call that the 105 network, because that's 14105. And they ask everybody to conform. Okay? But a lot of people deviate and whatever. I saw another hand back here somewhere.
I just asked you to repeat that. Your keyboard is 1.
Your keyboard is usually your call.
Oh, okay.
Your personal BBS is -1. Your crossband gateway, or digi, is -3. And your node function is -7. That's more or less convention, but you'll find a lot of variations.
Oh, look who's on the list.
Okay, now right now, Joe did a herd, and we're the only ones that Oregon is hearing on the frequency right at the moment. Notice the -15? Because we're on 2 meters. So this is the call that Oregon is seeing up there on 18105. Now here's a bunch of nodes. Arizona, Mount Hood. Do a C-space Mount Hood. Now, here's an exception. A lot of people will take two net ROMs or DNets and hook them together. This is actually a dual port. But he knows that he's hearing Mount Hood on the other port on 2 meters. So he just goes ahead and hooks it up. If we had 3 ports, then you would have to define the ports in a lot of cases.
Is there a way to get a signal report with those call signs? You talked one time about
Go ahead and do an I.
like 192 is a good path, and anything below that is
Yeah, we could have done a routes.
routes is where that.
Routes is where the quality shows up. Okay, we just did an I to find out where is Mount Hood, or where is this thing. Now I've used this many times to, there we go. Historic Timberline Lodge, 6,000 foot. He's got a BBS there. These are the sysops. SwapNet, they got SwapNet. I want to log in and see what's for sale or swap. You could log into that. I've used this node many times to go to Seattle. When Dave WG0N was up there a few months ago, he had a TNC and a little HT sitting on his table in his hotel room. And I'd connect to him once a day, leave a message, and then I'd come in, there'd be a message from him. We just take this 2-meter system on into Seattle. So it gives you an idea of the things you can do while you're sitting here with a couple of watts on 2 meters. Yeah, try you. These nodes here are in Arizona, and once you get to them, you can go out on about 6 different frequencies.
They don't have you shut off.
Yeah, he doesn't like me.
Yeah, we're your call now.
He's a kilocycle cop. He doesn't like me, so he's got me locked out of his system. But I figure out how to get in there every once in a while just to make him mad, because he hasn't figured out how to all the ports yet. Okay, see, we're coming in. We're coming in here to Mount Hood. Your W6OAV is coming in from Oregon, so it's a circuit. And since we're sitting there not doing anything, it doesn't show like uplink, or it wouldn't be uplink, but it'd be like downlink or circuit or CQ or whatever. You see how that works for that one thing? So it's quiet night there. There's nobody there. Yeah, we could work our way in. I think we'll just go ahead and drop it from there. Why don't you do... well, you might do an H for see who is hearing up there on 2 meters. Question?
Yeah, I'm at users, command there. Does that operate similarly on most of the different nodes as far as how long it's updated or how often it's updated and stuff? Because now on that one...
that's the herd command.
yeah.
The H command is updated every 15 minutes. The users is dynamic. I mean, if they're there, it shows them. If they're not there...
I mean, right at that present time?
Yeah, in other words, when we did the H command, wherever it was up to further, I guess?
Yep.
Yeah. When we did the H command, it had only heard our call in the last 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And now if we disconnect right now and somebody comes in 10 minutes, it's going to still show us there. After 15 minutes, if he hasn't heard it, in other words, every time he hears a call, he updates the record for another 15 minutes.
And the users then is just whoever's connected up to the node right then. Is that right?
Yeah, the users is dynamic. Let's try to connect to this guy.
Probably doing taxes today.
Yeah, I was looking at that. But see, this is the way you explore the network. You go in, like for example, we could have done a routes here and seen different physical links he has, connected to one of them, did a user or an H, found somebody. Okay, we don't know whether it's going to be his mailbox or keyboard, so just type hi, Bill in Denver. If it's his mailbox, we'll get a barf message back saying, you know, don't understand.
What's that K form?
Oh, we hit a LAN link. This is another system. There's so many systems out there. We could be here for 3 months talking about them all. Now, whether he'll come on or not, I don't know.
You mean a landline?
That's a software package that he's running in a computer. It's like MSys, your TNC assumes what they call a KISS mode. It's more of just a modem than anything else. And all your protocol, your AX.25 protocol and everything goes on is in your computer. And this is one of many. I must have 5 or 6 packages. By the way, Chuck, that one you gave me looks terrific. I'm going to really get into that one. It's got Windows in it. I didn't know that. It's got Windows and it's got remote access. That looks like a neat one. So now you got me something else that's going to tie me up for... Why don't you do a question mark, see if we get a command line. A lot of these systems don't give you anything unless you do a question mark. MSys is that way, which is good. You know, why repeat these command lines over and over? So anyway, we've gone into Oregon. We did an uplink to Mount Hood on 2 meters and then a downlink to N7 CPA. If we were to establish another channel out there and then do the users, that's what exactly we'd see. Remember before it just showed us coming in as a circuit? If we did the users now, it would show going down.
he's asking for you to have the caps on for the whole.
Well, if we want information about the system and who he is and whatever he's got in there, we'd have to type that, but in caps. You would think maybe he'd put that in caps just to highlight it. I've never seen that kind of a message before, so I don't know what that is. I'm not that familiar with LandLink. I've run into it. Usually when I run into it, the guy's been there and he starts talking to me and says, I'm running LandLink. And I say, well, that's nice. I do have it, but I've never run it.
Well, let's type QBM, huh?
How long you wait before you do something else?
I don't think those colons, I shouldn't think so.
Well, at this time of night, 18 megahertz dies. You just don't know.
Well, I mean,
You know, when the sun goes down,
Through pretty quick.
how many you,
well, yeah, we're going to TX,
how
but
many you usually wait, a half minute or so, or what?
depends on conditions, what band you're on.
Still ain't telling.
Well, it's a very, you got to understand propagation.
But
And we could talk for that for a half hour. In other words, if I were on 10 minutes, if I were on 10 meters right now, I wouldn't wait 30 seconds
Oh,
because 10 I know is dead. I know 18 right now, about this time of night, 18 is fading. And all of a sudden, there's a guy in, where's that guy down there in the South Seas? He starts coming in about this time of night. Text his call. I haven't talked to him in a while. But you'll see the West Coast go away, and then all of a sudden this guy down in the South Seas comes in for about an hour, and then he fades out.
I'm just curious. I started exploring a little bit on 30 meters.
Uh-huh.
You know of anybody that's contemplating that? That's a pretty darn good little band. it seems like.
Joe is. Whenever he gets time, we're going to build a 30-meter DDRR, and he's talking about getting on there.
Yeah, I got a flat roof on my garage with a metal, with metal underneath it, and I'm thinking of putting a 30-meter and 40-meter DDRR on the roof.
Mm-hmm. When we get TX situated where we can get some more ports and more antennas, then we want to do that sort of thing. Because 30 is good. What's that?
Didn't Dave use a 30 meter there for a while?
Yeah, Dave was on 30 meters for a while. We were all on 10.143. And then as the solar flux and the solar cycle got better, we went up to 18.
And as the BBSs took over.
Yeah, but in the next couple of years, you're going to see everybody going back down. 10 will probably be dead most of this summer. Why don't we go ahead and disconnect on this? 18 must have died to the East Coast. It's about this time it goes.
Well,
I mean to the West Coast.
how do I want to disconnect?
Control C and then a D.
I'll just get all the way out?
Yeah, just do the whole thing because we need to get on to other.
Okay.
Let's talk a little. Any questions on this?
One thing, Bill, did you start off with TX on this? I think you
Yeah.
did. Okay.
Well, now, yeah, we went to TX. We went to Michigan, and then we went up to Dave WG0N, and went out to the West Coast on 18105. Both of them are K nodes. We operate in both the same way. We did an X space. Da da da.
This is courtesy of Dave.
Yeah, yeah, sure is. Okay. Again, if we want to call CQ, why don't you go ahead and connect to W0TX again, just so I can show you the banner. Now we got one typo. We got the -7 got dropped off of here. But if you connect to W0TX, you're going to hit the keyboard. And I don't know if our message has changed, but it used to say, SysOp is out soldering, please come back again. Something like that. Because most of the time the keyboard's turned off. There is the mailbox. If we were going to use W0TX, it would have probably been W0TX-1. B for bulletin board, I guess. But we use the alias. You can do it either way. If we wanted to cross-band digi, it would be a -3. Everybody see how that works? So again, if I want to connect to somebody on 2 meters where I am, the same channel I'm on, I'd say C space call sign. If I want to connect to somebody on the other channel, the other port, I would X space call sign. And then I'd probably use an S because I wouldn't want to lose it if the band dies. Okay? B for buy, J and L, and then of course the help screen. Okay, let's go ahead and do a disconnect. Now, if I want to call CQ through a K node, I have to set up my address field on that unproto frame we talked about a long time ago. Unproto is where I send information, but I do not expect an ACK back. I'm just going to send it once, period. So UNP. Now, right now we have our address as CQ via DRC. And the reason we got it repeated here is because we have it set for both ports in this case, so we can call CQ from either port. But the point is, when we beacon our CQ out, the address field is going to be this. DRC happens to be an alias, and we really don't say it up here, but it happens to be an alias for beaconing via W0TX. Let's change that to W0TX. Just
-3?
yes, no. I want to keep it on the same one so we can watch it.
Okay.
So type CQ space V space W0TX-7. Put a slash and repeat it because of the cam.
Well, no, if you don't put a slash, you'll...
Is this the VHF port? Or the HF port? We didn't know.
We'll make it both. Except we want Unproto, right?
Yeah, we want on Proto.
CQ via W0
TX-7.
TX-7.
Mm-hmm. Now, will this get it on both ports if you don't put the slash? Okay. So now, anytime we issue an unproto frame, unnumbered information frame, that is going to be the address field. And W0TX is going to see it. And he's going to beacon it on the same frequency that we're on, at the same port we're on, because we're not going through the -3. Now, we can issue it two ways. We can just go to the converse mode and hit a carriage return, or we can tell our TNC to beacon it automatically. So go ahead, and I think we got our monitors on. Just okay. Now we're in the converse mode. There we go. W60AV CQ via W0TX-7. Now that's W0TX that we heard. See the asterisk? Because we can't hear ourselves transmit. We saw W0TX-7 echo our CQ. Now we want to send some text with our CQ. We're in the converse mode, but since we're not connected to anybody, we're just going to send out the information frame unnumbered, not expecting it. So type this as a test or something, yeah, whatever. Guys, you know, we're probably going to be glad when we get done with this class, you know, watching all this stuff go out. There. That's how you put text on your CQ. You can say, from Denver, Colorado, please answer me, whatever. When I beacon through a gateway out into the HF, I always put QTH Denver, Colorado, just so they know where I'm at. Now, if we were to change Unproto to CQ via W0TX-3, we wouldn't see this happen because that exact same thing, except for a 3, would go out on 20 meters in this case. And somebody would see that, and they would type C space W60AV via W0TX-3, and he would connect to me. Does that make sense? So that's how you call CQ through anybody. I can call CQ through Joe Station by just putting CQ, Unproto, CQ via KE0QA. I could put KE0QA, comma, DEN, comma, and somebody else, and go through 3 or 4 of them, but that gets messy. Okay, I saw a hand here.
Okay, when he typed howdy from packet class and just hit enter,
Mm-hmm.
that went out on 20 meters?
No, this went out on 2 meters here, that's why we saw it. If I had made, in other words, W0TX saw the source and destination address, and he says, oh, that's me. I'll repeat it. That's why we see the asterisk, because we saw this station repeating our packet, our frame.
Yeah, notice up above there, the command where I did the K,
Yeah.
that put us into converse mode.
See, we're in the converse mode now. But since we're not connected to anybody, that means our packets are going to go out, but we're not expecting an ACK back because we're not connected to anybody. That's called the unnumbered information. We're sending an information frame out, but we're not expecting an ACK.
Effectively, you're just broadcasting.
Yeah, it's broadcast.
The other method for that sometimes I have used, Bill, is for measuring the frequency. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to connect to anybody, you can control when you transmit.
That brings up an interesting point. One of the things I do, which is really neat, I play with antennas. So I will take, with my buddy in California, and I will type unproto via K6MGM-7. And then I go to the converse mode, and I just hit carriage return a couple times. My packet goes out, he retransmits it back, because he's repeating it, and I watch the S meter, and then I change antennas. So I'm forcing his transmitter to transmit so I can see how I'm receiving him on different antennas, because antennas are reciprocal. So, you know, here I got a guy 1,000 miles away. Anytime I want him to transmit so I can check an antenna, I just unproto through him. It's really neat. See? Well, you know, it's better than asking a guy, well, am I better now or am I worse now? You know, because you get fading and all that. So you just sit there and keep playing back and forth and, you know, watch everything, and it's neat. I'm testing antennas all the time this way.
Okay, if you wanted to call a CQ on plane,
Then I would change this to a -3. Now, because remember up the top here it said that was the gateway?
right?
Now when W0TX sees this come out, he sees the destination is -3 or -3, and he says, oh, I got to repeat that out on the other port. So he just repeats it on the other port. And the people on 20 meters would see the same thing, except they'd have a -3. And whoever's on 20 meters knows that they're hearing this, they're not hearing me, they're hearing me coming through this. So they would have to type C space W60AV space via space W0TX-3. And when they transmit, it comes right back through the crossband digi to me. Okay? So you got to be careful you put the right dash numbers. Because you had a question earlier about somebody was going through -7. Well, that's what we're doing right now. So they were just having it repeated on 2 meters. Or if you're on 20, it would be repeated on 20. Same, you know, -7 down there is the same band.
Yeah, basically what I was wondering about, I guess, was, I was thinking in order to use a -7, because it's a node, you would need to connect to somebody. I didn't realize that you could just go in on proto with a via W0TX-7, and it would just act
Right.
as kind of a digital.
It's just like I can connect to you via W0TX-7. And that's why I spent an hour some weeks ago saying don't do that, because it's a node.
Yeah.
If it's a node, connect to it, tell it to connect, and that way once you get your packet of information to the node, it's now his responsibility to get it to the other end. You don't have to worry about it. So if you go through a digi, now the 2 endpoints have to worry about it, and that really ties up the frequency. Those of you get the round table, this issue coming out now talks about using digis and the limitations, and the issue that'll be coming out next month runs the same scenario with the little time diagrams for nodes, and you'll see the difference. It's very obvious in these little time diagrams.
Is there a difference, I mean, what is the difference sending a CQ via W0TX-7? Well, wait a minute, the -3, that's the gateway, right?
Yeah, -3 would make it go out the other one, yeah.
So this just digis it, basically.
Right, it's just digying right now on our frequency. If we do a -3, it's digying on the other one. See, we could sit here and say CQ via WB0EVA, and EVA would repeat it. Okay.
Now, with this unproto CQ mode, if we hadn't, if we didn't have the path to W0TX-7, it would just say disconnected after a certain number of tries, correct?
If you try to connect to it?
No, in other words, what happens if W0TX-7 can't hear you where you thought it could?
On these things here?
Yeah, on these things here, right?
Then you just transmit it, doesn't go anywhere, because TX doesn't hear it.
How many times will it do that?
Oh, if you turn your beacon on?
Maybe I misunderstand.
Okay, right now we're not beaconing. Right now we're forcing it.
You're forcing it, but you're not connected to it because you
No.
said it's unproto command.
Yeah, right.
So what you're doing is you're basically, to me, it's like you are beaconing or broadcasting, hoping that W0TX-7 will hear it, and then
Exactly.
you want W0TX-7 to do. Now, what if W0TX can't hear you?
Then your broadcast goes nowhere.
Okay, and does that,
And you won't know it unless you haven't had the monitor on.
okay. Now, will it retry a certain number of times?
Well, okay, right now we're not connected. We just went to the converse mode, and every time we hit carriage return, it's going to send this out.
Okay.
See?
And so
Now
it
if I...
turns it out one time every time.
Right, just one time. Now, if I want to sit there and beacon, and you shouldn't do it more than every 5 minutes, then we would type beacon every so often. Like on PK232, I would go B for beacon, space, E for every, space, 90, which is 900 seconds, which is every 15 minutes. And it would send out whatever, your address field would be whatever's in your unproto up here. And then whatever's in your B-text would go out. So
B-text and whatever's in your...
yeah, the B-text is the automatic text. See, here we had to manually put it in because we're not beaconing. So I always have B-text as QTH : Denver, Colorado. And then I'll beacon like every 10 minutes or something. And so the guy will see my path and he'll see where I am. And it'll beacon forever. There's no retry out on beaconing. I made the mistake one time of beaconing on 15 meters and forgot about it. Came back the next day and I had about 20 connects. Where are you? Why are you beaconing? CQ. So you never want to call CQ if you're not there. You can ID. If you want an ID, like on 20 meters, you'll see me IDing through W0TX quite often. Every 15 minutes or every half hour, and it'll say ID, not CQ, but ID. In other words, unproto, ID, space via, space W0TX-3, and then you'll see some other call signs. I'm beaconing out to California so the people in 2 meters know when the path is open to Denver, friends of mine, and then they'll connect to me.
No,
But sometimes if you're calling CQ and you forget and you walk away, and some guy's gone through 30 nodes, he calls you, sees you calling CQ and he connects to you, and you aren't there, he gets upset because he's through 30 nodes and you're not there and you're calling CQ. So be careful. Only call CQ when where at least you can hear your connect alarm when somebody connects to you.
If now Joe hits return again, will this text howdy from packet class,
No.
that won't be there this
You got to enter it every time.
The other stuff will
It's a one-time shot, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you tell your machine to beacon, he's going to beacon with the address that's in the address fields in the unproto, and he's going to grab the B text and put it in there. When you just hit carriage return, then it sends out the text. Now the other day, a good friend of mine was trying to connect to me from California, and he had so much RF in his TNC I couldn't copy him. So I went to the unproto mode, and I just said, too much RF in TNC, and I repeated about 6 times, hoping he would see that. Well, he did have his monitor on, and he did see it. The only thing I forgot until I did about 10 times, and I went, oh no. I was beaconing, and he was seeing it, but my unproto carried it on to 2 meters and through 3 nodes in California. And all these people in California, 2 meters, going, what the hell is this guy, I went, oh, geez, So you got to be careful when you do this stuff.
Now Joe's hitting return a bunch of times and nothing's happening.
Yeah, the TX is not seeing us.
What happened? Okay, the reason we're doing this, we're beaconing via, is because we cannot make a K-node or an MSys or a LAN link or a lot of these other applications call for us. But we can make NetROM and TheNet call for us. So let's go ahead and why don't you connect to DEN if we can.
Say that again?
Why don't you go ahead and connect to DEN,
I can't.
ARA4.
I'll do that.
ARA4, uh-huh. Okay, now, just type CQ, and that's it, and return. Okay, now, this is Conifer Mountain calling CQ. This is ARA4 calling CQ. That's me with the -15, you know, from the node calling CQ. That node is now sitting there for 15 minutes waiting for somebody to call for me, connect to me. It will not reissue the command. Anytime I want to reissue the command, I have to type CQ. Conifer Mountain sees it in this case, and he repeats the CQ. He's not digying it. He's repeating it, and whoever sees it is going to connect to the node. They're going to connect to W60AV-15. Now, let's type some text. So CQ space and whatever you'd like to say. It's my call sign, so be careful what you say. Just wait.
Yeah, but he didn't enter.
I can go home and change my call to your call.
He didn't enter it, no, Bill.
Now, Conifer Mountain repeated it again with text. Okay?
This is their text.
With text.
That says test.
With text.
That says TESTING.
I think it's time for a break.
Getting time for coffee. Oh, that's why they're hitting this coffee break. I got one.
Could have put some text in the very first CQ,
We could have, yeah. I was just demoing
colon or space.
the very first CQ. Well, we just type, once we connected to ARA4, we just typed CQ, and he recognizes that as a command. So he repeats the frame out and then opens up the node for 15 minutes, so anybody can connect to W60AV-15. So we were just calling CQ with no text. Now we're demonstrating how you call CQ with text. Okay? Was that your question?
Yeah, just leave a space and put your text in.
Right. Type CQ space and text, one line of text, and he will send that frame out. So we're not digying through him in this case. We are telling him, you call CQ for me and let somebody else connect to you. Now we are using a node as a node. Whoever I'm talking to is connected to the node and I'm connected to the node. I only have to get my packets to the node. The node has to get them to him and vice versa.
Is that only NetROM
And VNet.
So this is a...
The MSys can and certain other programs can emulate these things, and then they will do that because they're emulating these, yeah.
ARA4 is NetROM?
I think it is NetROM. It's either NetROM or VNet.
Is that dead?
I wanted to find out where he really was connected to. So I connected to ARA4 and I did a users on ARA4, and it told me that WB0 EVA was on the uplink, and he was, well, let's do it. So let me connect to ARA4. Let's hope he's still there. So if I do a users here, I should see WB0 EVA on the uplink connected to on the circuit to COS. Okay. So now while I'm connected to ARA4, I'll do the same. Well, you'll notice I'm also on the uplink. So I'll make a connect to COS, which will connect me on the circuit to COS. I just nosy, that's all. So I'm just trying to figure out who this guy is talking to.
Isn't EVA, isn't that Eve? Female? Les?
I don't know. COS, that,
No, WB0 EVA, isn't that Sheffield's wife?
No. She is,
Okay, so then I did a users at COS, and it told me that on the circuit from ARA4, WB0 EVA is connected on the downlink WB0 EVA-15 to W0 ANO. So WB0 EVA out of ARA4 is connected through to COS and connected to W0 ANO.
So you see how that works? We could have come in from 20 meters, connected to ARA4, seen this, then did like Joe did. Well, let's go over there and then see where that person is. It happens to be the downlink. We could connect to W0 ANO at that time, unless the users was set to 1, then it would say busy. So that's one way to explore the network. You see a circuit, you say, well, I'm going to go that way or that way. Find out where the end of the circuit is. It's either going to be an uplink or a downlink, and then connect to the guy and say, hi, Joe in Denver. And you always get these exclamation marks and question marks saying how. A lot of fun to do. Okay, let's go ahead and does everybody know how to connect to W0LJF and what stuff is? Okay, why don't we try that? Why don't you go ahead and drop off there and go to 05. Les, was that you with your hand up?
No, I was answering your question. Does everyone know how to connect to?
Oh, yeah, you said no. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I saw Les with his hand up. When I...
the Starlight comes in on 20 meters through TX and goes over onto 01 and goes up into Wyoming, which we were talking to this afternoon.
Just W0LJF.
Yeah, W0LJF. Well, yeah, I think you can do it direct, can't you?
Well,
Is it better through
yeah, it's...
whatever the best path is? Yeah, that fellow I was talking to this afternoon that we tried, whose BBS we connected to tonight, that WA8. I mentioned to him that I had seen him earlier connected to TX, and he says, yeah, I use TX a couple times a week to go up to Laramie from Michigan there. Got a good buddy up there, and he said, I set it up every couple times a week, and we chat, and, you know, it works great. And the guy up there is using an HT. See, there's the CAM version of replace nerd at keyboard symbol. By the way, I mentioned it last week, and I should have mentioned it now. Somebody brought this up. Forget that we have a CAM. That's just a TNC. All these things we're talking about is the network. Yeah, we're having trouble getting out of here for some reason, Les. I don't know why. We hear everything, but we just can't decode half of it.
Went to 05.
Yeah,
Yep.
we're on 05 now. W0LJF has ports on 03 and 05. If you get a busy on one, go to the other. Each port supports several logins. I don't know how many.
Bill, is there any sort of a directory that tells you at least some of these major nodes like W0?
Yeah, I'm going to show you on this if we can get there.
Hey, Bill.
On LJF, there's a directory called Maps, and in there it shows you computer-generated, you know, with ASCII character maps, outline of the state, the different nodes, the different digis. And our Colorado map actually tells you how to get your name and address and what frequency you like to sit on the listing. So you can connect in here and then download the thing to your hard drive and print it or whatever.
It's ASCII.
Yeah, it's ASCII.
Yeah,
So you can
there's,
use any old word processor.
It's about to go off the screen, up toward the top where you have the uplink and the 2 carets. Is there any difference between where you have the 2 dashes in the carets and the 2 periods, or is that just a quirk of the...
Well, that's a straight through circuit. We're coming in and going out, circuit coming down, so it's not a straight through path. We're coming in and down, or an uplink and out, or an uplink to a downlink. So it just designates that it's not a circuit that's just passing through. You know, you couldn't connect to it, couldn't do anything with it.
I guess that's all documented in VNet user's manual or something.
I guess I've never seen manuals on this stuff. The things I'm talking about are just things I've noticed. You got the monitor on?
Yeah.
Why don't you turn it off because that just confuses things right
Yep.
now.
So we're here.
Oh, we're
Let's see, we heard, I guess we're hearing just less, we're not hearing W0.
oh, okay. Well, anyway, we logged in. It says MSys version 1.3. Hello, Bill. Welcome. Please read da 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 da. Now here's your command line. Now, if I want to list what new messages have come in, and this is a worldwide system, you get messages from everywhere, I would do an L, but I don't think right now we want to wait. Do a W for what? Yeah, we could do that. You can. I have a printout that I forgot to bring in to have Keith at Xerox in the front seat of my car. We'll hand these out next week. We'll get Keith at Xerox. It's all these commands. Right now, we're asking the BBS, what directories do you have, and what do you have in these directories? So as you can see, it's starting to come up. We got General and General 2, Hardware, Kenwood, ICOM. We're going to have some map stuff show up here shortly.
How do you access the directories?
I'm going to show you that next.
There's a real good list in the latest QST of those BBS commands.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, special.
Did you just get yours?
About a week ago, or no, a couple weeks ago.
Oh. I guess I haven't gotten to mine yet
It's the one
then.
with Mickey Mouse on the cover. Pluto.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I just haven't got to. Okay, well, that's good to know. There is a help file. Now, here we got one called map. So let's see what's in there. We're not going to download any of this stuff, but do a W space, the Unix slash, because I don't know whether that's right or left, but Unix slash,
That one?
yeah, and then map. I never remember a right slash from a reverse slash, so I go DOS slash and Unix slash, because I know he understands it.
Where do you see the help command?
Now here's our maps. We got an Arizona no list, an Arizona map, a Colorado. I got a whole bunch of Colorado stuff. I'm gonna get some more stuff up here.
What's the difference in the Colorado ones?
Different segments. It's huge because it's also a list of operators.
Okay.
Everybody in Lakewood that's registered.
Is that Lakewood LO2?
I have no idea which one it is,
Okay.
but it's on one of those.
I think Copa broke that up into 4 sections, Bill.
Yeah, it's been broken up because it's got a map of the state and it shows all the digis, all the nodes, where they are, and then it has a list by city of all the hams who have registered and where they like to be. It's very comprehensive. Pennsylvania, Wyoming, Nebraska, Montana, whatever. Now, like I say, I'm going to give you a handout next week on how to do all this stuff. Now, if I wanted to get this map of Germany, and you can go on HF and go to those places too and get more maps, I would do a D for W, download, I'm sorry, D for W. It's getting late. It's been a hard day, and there's nothing in my drink. But I would do a D for download, space, /map, /Alabama.map, whatever I want. And then I would open the buffer on my hard drive and download that map. And then I could print it out or whatever.
What was that again, the D/map?
Yeah, D space /map Colorado5.map or whatever, and then open a buffer because it's going to sit there and send it to you. You really want to do this during non-prime time. 7 and 8 o'clock in the evening will make you very popular. If you got Procom, it's kind of neat to write shell script and just have it do it at midnight. If you got a terminal program where you can just have it do it all by itself. That's what I just set mine up and say 2 o'clock in the morning, download this stuff, and it does it all for me.
How long does it take?
Depends on how big the map is and how heavy the traffic is.
Yes.
10 minutes,
Oh, okay.
something like that, yeah.
What are the numbers after the maps?
That's the file size. That's a biggie.
That should tell you that.
Yeah.
How long it's gonna take.
This one here probably be 3-4 minutes.
What do you mean 7 by?
These are ASCII files, by the way, so, pardon me?
709 bytes or what?
I think it's K.
Well,
Is
does
it
that mean
bytes?
our printer might not be equal to taking it, or what?
No, that's how much space you have to have in your machine to hold it. That's the number of bytes.
Let's pull that one, Bill. That's pretty short.
Well, we only got 6 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
We could dump it after 4. couldn't
Well, let's not do that right now. We can do it at the end. How come you don't have a command line, Joe? Hit a carriage return.
Bill, did you say D slash or backslash?
D space and then whatever you call that thing. That,
What?
what?
What the heck?
You're running a skip slash or some sort of compound.
That looks like the kind of drum.
German back. He's been on the
Now you know why packeteers wind up talking to themselves and laughing at their own jokes. See, he's smiling. He's having fun now. He's trying to figure out what happened.
Is that somebody trying to find out who's hogging that network?
Could be. What did you type under my call? Hey, maybe that was Jack in Arizona, Joe. Keith, Bill had an idea here of taking the, and I think you've got most of this done already, or a lot of it, but anyway, a list of the names, the calls, and phone numbers so we could pass out.
No phone numbers.
No phone numbers on that. Name and calls. would-
Name and calls, okay.
But if everyone has copies, they're out.
Now you got your auto dial sequence going out.
It's just the modem setup. That's all right. They'll tell us we get the wrong stuff on it.
So are we connected or disconnected now?
Well, I think we're still connected.
We'll do a Control C and do a CS and see. Oh, do a C. I forgot this is a cam. I'm too used to the PK232. Well, why don't you send him a carriage? Send him a question mark like we did before.
Well, the frequency is just real busy, though, obviously.
Yeah.
We probably got one of those.
Well, where was that coming from? First name, yes, no.
I'm trying to find who you guys
That was in host mode. That was ProCom.
That was the host mode, yeah. Yeah. How do we wind up in host mode?
I don't know. I did Control. Oh, I did Alt Q is what I did instead of Control Q. There we go.
Oh, okay. Now, let's send a message. So do SP for send private.
He wants to accept my key. Why?
Can't get through this and all that.
Somebody's downloading the file. See, this is why you become very popular. We could turn on the monitor and maybe, if this goes on very long, connect the guy and say, hey, You get two guys downloading the file at the same time, you might as well forget it. There we go.
Why did they double it? Why did they repeat it?
Because we send garbage to him.
We'll be done here in a minute.
When he went to the host mode and all that, we sent stuff to him. He doesn't understand. Again, this is the polite way of saying replace nerd at keyboard. See, he's getting stuff from us and he doesn't understand because we went into the host mode. We went to funny modes
I
here.
don't either.
We're having a hell of a time getting packets through. That's the problem. Because we have to go through a digi, it's
That even
taking
kills
twice
it.
as long.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and send the command because I don't know, maybe we're done.
When you,
SP
we,
space K6MGM space @ the gizmo above the 2 space N6IIU. Nancy,
M6.
IIU. Return. Okay, now, we're sending a message to K6MGM, who's a friend of mine in California in San Jose. We're saying send private. The only reason is when people are doing listings, if we don't say private, it's going to list that as one of the messages. And why tie up a frequency listing stuff that's not going to be of interest to him anyway? Okay? @ says, I want this message to go to this BBS. See, we're still getting stuff back from the original. At this BBS. Okay?
Well, we're not done yet either, it looks like.
I wonder how much stuff we sent.
Maybe we should,
What is that symbol after MGM?
That's the @ sign. It's the little character above 2. It's a little A with the circle around it. It's above the 2 on the keyboard. That designator tells W0LJF that what is to follow is a BBS somewhere, and he'll look it up in his lookup table later on and ship it out on the right HF frequency. When I send messages to Denny, it usually takes about 2 to 4 hours to get there unless we've had a solar flare and the bands are dead. I send them quite often to Tokyo to a friend of mine, and they go via Australia. Takes about 10 hours. Question?
Last 4 items in that last line after LJF, is that just to help a SysOp to find it?
Yeah. Yeah, if he doesn't know, if you enter a BBS that hasn't been entered into the system, that tells him where to send it, and down there they'll know where it is.
I've seen that formatted.
I am not sure, but I think we've opened the message somehow there too. Why don't you do an R space 18309? I think some of the garbage we sent opened up the file or something. Because, you know, we got an end of message command here and we haven't even really opened one yet.
309 is about a half hour long.
You don't need it here.
Why don't you disconnect, Joe?
He's got 2 he's added in his opening message. That's one, and there's another.
Yeah, but we shouldn't have got that.
Are you? Okay, your monitor is off now, right?
Yeah, our monitor's off, and we've been getting command lines because we upload all kinds of stuff to him when we went in that funny mode. And all of a sudden, right in the middle of this, he's telling us that's the end of message. Well, when you start a message, enter the subject, enter the text, and do a Control-Z, you get that. Ed's probably saying, going, who the hell crashed my BBS? And my call is on this radio.
We've heard him before.
I'm going to get a nasty gram, Joe.
You know, an 18309,
You're
there's
used
one
to
up
it.
on there that tells you to read it.
Yeah, I think it
As
is.
soon as you connect, 18309, 18310.
Yeah, but it's telling us it's the end of that message, and we haven't done we haven't read it, we haven't done anything with it.
18309 is entitled The 27 Commandments of BBS.
Yeah,
Right, we violated 10 or 12 of them right here.
well, he violates his own when he puts it on.
Okay, we're going to start over. Maybe I've been locked out of this system too, Joe. We may have to put your call back in there. Well, it says welcome. That's a good sign.
He's a good guy.
AE0Q, isn't that who you were talking to last night, Chuck? Yeah. I thought I recognized that call.
okay.
We haven't got the command line yet. This is the point at which...
We got several up there extra.
Oh, okay, I'll go up and grab one of those.
Yeah.
Actually, this is the full correct way to do this, but I don't really know what it is for my friend, and I know that the BBS is there, so I don't worry about it. But if you don't know, you put the BBS, and then in this case, period, # Northeast Colorado .colorado.usa.na. And what happens is, there we go. Okay, now do an SP space K6MGM space @ N6IIU. All this does is if somehow the message gets lost, that tells them what part of the world it goes to, and they'll just ship it there, and people there will recognize where it's supposed to go and put it back in. I've sent messages to Denny, not as much as I used to, since we have a direct link on 20 every day now, but we used to number our messages so that we knew if one got lost, and I was up to 300, and he was like 280 or something like that, and we lost only one message in that entire mess, and that's when the hard drive crashed. Okay. In this case, I just put hi.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't do what he tells you to.
Not for N6IU because I know it's in his routing tables. Now, if I want to send a bulletin, like say I have something for sale, I can say SB, and I can say all USA, and that bulletin will go to every BBS in the United States. I can say all Colorado, all Den. There's different designators. I'll give you the handout next class on this. So you can send bulletins to, worldwide, US-wide, statewide, county-wide, city-wide. Like I wanted to modify my 731 and I didn't have the specs, so I just sent one to Denver and nobody answered. I sent one to Colorado, nobody answered. So I sent one to the western half of the United States and I got 10 answers. Yeah, right. Throw it over the side. Okay, we can go ahead and keep on going. Say, hi, Denny. There we go. Much like the personal BBS you saw tonight. Hi, Denny, demoing for Packet class. He'll know what it's all about. I talked to him this afternoon on Packet.
Now, is that got a timestamp so he knows when
Mm-hmm.
it's left Denver?
And it's going to show him how it got there. It's really interesting when you got solar flares and things going on. They can take some weird paths to get there. Sometimes they'll go direct. Sometimes they'll go to via Arizona. One time, just for the heck of it, I was connected to a BBS. I was on 10 meters, and I connected to a BBS in Boston and sent Denny here a message. Said, hi, I'm in Boston. Wish you were here. And about 2 hours later, I happened to be sitting on 10.147. I just happened to have it sitting there, and I had my TNC set up where if my call ever goes by, it dings the bell so I go see who's talking about me. And I heard my call go by. And I looked down there, and it was New Orleans relaying my message to California on 30 meters, and I had put it in on 10. And it took about 2.5 hours to get from Boston to California.
Is that all you want to say?
Yeah. And Control Z. So anyway, that'll be sitting out there in California in about 2 to 4 hours. Let's go ahead and do a listing just to show the stuff that's in there. If you connect to it and it says you have mail, just type RM for read mine. And it will automatically pick your messages, how many you have. And then when you're done, you say KM for kill mine, and it'll kill them all. Or you can say read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, kill K 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you don't want to kill them all, you want to read one at a time.
Is there a comma between them?
No, just spaces.
I think you don't want to just put an L in.
Well, I logged in.
That's as bad as downloading.
Well, I log in every day. My TNC does. So normally, unless it's been a heavy day, there's usually about 20 messages. But you can say list 5, list 10. We probably should have done that. I'm so used to it. Now there's a message we just. PN means private. Can't read it. You can say list 5, list 10, or whatever.
Message number 5 or message number 10?
I think it's LL. I got the commands.
Yeah, this last.
Yeah, LL's 5 or something like that. My computer logs in every day for me, so the most I ever get is like 20 as a general rule. Some days it may be 30, some days 10. Okay.
Does it remember the last one you have done, or the ones you have downloaded?
If you log off properly, when I'm done, if I say B, it will say 73 is DELW0LJF, and it will send the disconnect to me. If I go to the command mode and I do a D and issue a disconnect, it won't remember any of this. And if you log back in 5 minutes later, it'll go through the entire list again. Whereas if I do a B and then log in 5 minutes, there may be 1 or 2 that came in that 5 minute period. It only lists those. So always be sure you log off with a B. Joe?
Yeah, Bill, a lot of the literature makes it sound like these BBSs are pretty effectively used in the national traffic system. Is that really true, or is that hype?
It used to be true here in Denver. We had Bud, if you knew Bud, I forgot his call. He had a regular NTS board. You would log in, you would pull a couple messages off, call the people, deliver it, and then come back in and say delivered. And then if you wanted to respond, you had a regular format. You say, I want to respond to this message. So it automatically knew where it's supposed to go. You didn't have to say, I want to send it here. And that was very good. I used to handle a lot of traffic. I'd just log in and see 3 or 4 in my area code, my local calling. I'd call them up, send the answers back, and it was very efficient. You may see some on here tonight. Here's one right here. Now on this particular board, you're going to see a lot of messages. That's the LA area. This happens to be a crossover point. In other words, it came in on, say, 40, and it's going to go out on 20 or something. So you'll see a lot of NTS messages that aren't even for this area because we are a crossover point. They're just here temporarily now until he can get it out of here on some other band.
Now they characteristically have a zip code in the 2 column, right?
Yeah, they try to put the zip codes in, and they try to put the phone numbers in. Now, see, here's a bulletin to all U.S. This is why you should never DX BBSs, because these BBSs all exchange messages. And if that message is not on this BBS, the guy didn't want it here anyway, had really no appropriate means. So if you go up on 145.01 and you try to keep BBSs off of that, because that's keyboard frequency, but still some people do it. If you go up to Laramie and then connect to a BBS there through a gateway, and then start downloading this stuff and reading messages, you are going to get a lot of nasty grams. Because the same stuff is on your local BBS. So don't DX BBSs. Here's a guy here, he wants some information. See if you want to know something. He sent it to all US, all US, all US. Here's NTS California, all US.
How about that first one?
This guy here? No, that's some Lulu.
But you said it private. I thought that you said it kept it off.
Yeah, he can't read it.
Oh, but it shows on
Yeah, it shows us there, if I'm sorry. Yeah, it shows us there, but it keeps people from reading it because it's useless stuff anyway, so why clog the frequency of having people read your mail? Because there's nothing of any significance for the reader. Now, what you can do later on is log back in and try to read that, and it'll say not found. You say, well, okay, it's left. I know it left.
What's TR?
I think it's something like type a report or something. It does. No, this is private. This is traffic. This is bulletins. I don't remember what these things mean.
Bill, one of the things that I do, if I need to go back and recapture some of the information, I download a lot of AMSAT, and I list at AMSAT, and it'll just give me that list.
Yeah. Actually, on the page we'll hand out next week, all the commands are probably in an area about 6 inches long. You can list these in all kinds of formats. So that's why I'm not going to go through them, because I'll hand them out to you. You can list, you can do a search by title, list by title, list. You can say, I want to only list 18.840 to 18.810 or something. I want to list the last 5. I want to list, by title. You can list these things all different ways. And I will give that to you next week.
Isn't there a help on this that explains what's
Yes.
available under each one?
I'm going to give you handouts of that. You can type help, which gives you all the commands.
I think you get-
See, we got users set to 1. W0SG is trying to connect to us. He just got it busy. We sent him a DM command. Anyway, you can type the H and it will give you a listing of the commands. And that's on this hard copy I'm going to give you. You can do a, if I remember right, it's a question mark I or question mark G, and it will explain that one command for you. And the command you will be using normally, I've got printed out there. Why don't we go ahead and disconnect, because this will be just more of the stuff, same stuff.
Bill, what is the slash V mean? W0SG slash V?
Okay, this has 2 ports, so it's telling us which port it's on, because if we had the HF sitting here, it would have come up and said H to let you know which port he was on. See, here's another NTS for Seattle that was just coming through here. Here's one of the AMSAT bulletins here you're referring to. So this is very powerful because you can send messages worldwide. I sent one message USA-wide one time asking if anybody had experience with the DDRR type antenna, because I'd like to, you know, talk to them or hear from them. Well, nobody came back on that, but I had 3 guys connect to me and say, "Oh, you're in Denver now. So I saw your call and your message, so I thought I'd find out what you're up to." You know, so I got acquainted with 3 old friends through that one message. So it is a very powerful thing if you're looking for something to sell, buy. There's a swap net in here. We'll take a look at that next week. The DX cluster, we'll take a look at that. We'll hand you all the commands, the most commonly used commands on this thing, so you don't have to download it and do all the help files and all that. I figured that was better than having 40 of you go out there and go, help everything, you know. So we'll hand that out next week. And then review any of the things you want to see here.
I think in his W, he's got a file in there that gives a real expanded description of all of the help. Goes into even
Yeah, there's a big thing. He tells you not to load it down, download it during prime time.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a book. Why don't you go ahead and just type the help, just the H real quick, like. Give you a feel for it. Yeah, you'll find that between about 7 and 10 o'clock, these 2 frequencies that LJF is on are very busy. We had 2 other BBSs, EEJ out near Golden, I guess it was, or Boulder, and he had to shut down for some reason. So all the traffic has moved over here. There's 420 some people, last I heard, registered on this board. Okay, here's basically your various commands: buy, help, list messages. Just for the heck of it, try the question mark L. Read what files, we've done that. This is not activated. Information, send messages, set options. This is how you on the board want to talk to each other. Maybe you only have a 40 character wide screen, like a little laptop. You could tell it, put it in those little chunks. Current users to see who's there. See, if you only want to see bulletins, LB. List messages to or from you. In other words, list mine. List messages, you know, locally that aren't forwarded and whatever. You want to see how people are getting to the BBS, because you over here you saw who was there. You can find out how they're getting there, maybe through digis, through nodes or something. Kill messages. You can search for files, search for words within files. That's kind of a Unix thing, Joe, like a grep command. List messages older than a certain date. If you want to see NTS, if you are an NTS type guy, Joe, you could type that LT and then find out if there are local ones for you, deliver them, answer them, things like that. It's a little more difficult on this being as it's not dedicated to it. List all the messages to me that you haven't read. I don't quite understand that one. As opposed to the LM, I've never used it. Here's this thing here, list the last 10, LL. In other words, if you haven't logged in 6 months, you may only want to list the last 10 or 20. Otherwise, you'll be there forever. List messages, any messages that this guy has sent. List any messages to this guy. List messages being sent to a particular BBS. Okay? Or list a particular message. In other words, that one, if I want to check that one that I sent earlier, when I go home I can say list whatever that was. And if it lists it, then I know it's still on the board. It hasn't been forwarded yet. Here's if I'm looking for, like for sale or want. If there's a keyword I want to search on, I could use these. Here's that key we were talking about earlier. If it's a private message, you're not going to be able to read it anyway. So that kind of gives you an idea of some of the things you can do on this board. A lot of you probably want to download those packet maps. We probably should have copied those and passed them out. Never thought about doing it. We did last class. But anyway, that's where you get the maps. And if you need a map of, say, Pennsylvania, you could set a, it's not on here, you could send a message to that area saying, can somebody tell me how to get a map, or send me a map? And you'll probably get a response from somebody saying, I'll upload it to you if it's on HF, or I'll send it to you through this system, whatever. Or it may just show up here. For our 10-meter repeater, we didn't have the schematic for the little COR, and it was acting up, so I sent a message to all US telling them when I went to Hamtronics, they told me they didn't have any copies anymore, which I found it hard to believe. But so I sent it out, and I got 3 back in the mail. So it's a real handy thing. Any questions on that? We probably better call it quits. Anybody awake? Okay, well, we'll see everybody.